Hi, everyone. How are you all doing? I'm happy to join you today in my video, and we're going to talk about how to keep perspective in the midst of the crazy, in the midst of all the things happening around you. How do you keep the main thing the main thing? And I thought that this was a fitting topic, not just because of what's going on in the world, but because if you're like me, you have responsibilities, you have purpose, you have dreams and goals, and you recognize that even though the boat may be, you know, floating and it feels like you're going to tip over, our natural instinct is to hold on. And in that moment of holding on, we're trying to figure out how to stay in the boat. And I have a process that I use to keep me focused on staying in the boat. I also have my life jacket on. So just in case the boat capsizes, I can stay afloat and I still have a strategy also to get back in the boat. That's my analogy for just managing my mental, physical, and overall well being, especially during this time. My first way to do that is an attitude of gratitude. We've heard that a lot before, I'm sure. Excuse me, I'm getting comfortable in my chair because we're going to be here for a minute. Um, just being able to recognize what is actually positive in your life. For me, I am very grateful for even what is the smallest of things. I'm grateful for my ability to move. I'm grateful for my ability to be employed. I'm grateful for relationships that I have, not just with my family members, but friends. I count it joy to be able to pick up a phone, be able to send a text, and recognizing the people that are in my life and what's happening. I'm just really thankful for those types of things because they ground me, especially my walk of faith. I'm thankful that I am a child of the King. And when all else fails, scripture is where I can go to not just get a word of encouragement, but to also understand what God says about how we're supposed to behave when the boat starts rocking. All of those things keep me centered and keep me focused. I'll share an example with you that I started during COVID, and I'm not going to remember at this moment who started it, but his name is DK. He's an author, and I'll put him in the description. He started this phenomenon called micro wins, and I believe for 30 days on a post it, he named three things that he was thankful for in a way and just three wins and they were in categories and I'll put it in the description for you or I'll make it show up on the screen, but it was really great to every day take stock of what was happening in the moment. And so if I were to do that today, I would say it snowed in, it's icy out. So one of my wins is that we were able to have a house stocked with provisions. We didn't lose electricity. Nobody in my household went hungry and everybody is safe. That's a real easy win. Another one is that because I'm at home, I'm teleworking. And so I was able to have a productive day, attended all of my meetings, um, checked the box on pretty much everything that I've been asked to do, and that's a win because we don't get to always check our boxes. Some days the the items get left undone and we carry it over to the next day. But today that was a good win for me. And then win three is that I am having the stamina to record this video for the first time that's going to be longer than maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And that is a win for me. So I'm excited about that. That gives me gratitude. Now, I also stay away from a lot of social media and a lot of the world news because I do want to keep. I'm sorry, y'all. I got on this sweater and I gotta, you know me, I gotta start fanning. And I do want to keep myself centered and focused. It doesn't mean that I am ignorant. What it means is that I take information Let me see. I've got a fan here. Yeah, I know I keep my pocketbook near me when I record, and I do that on purpose because at any given moment I'm gonna start fanning. So I'm gonna hold it right here. But I really do my best to limit exposure to a lot of polarizing information. And it doesn't mean that I am not conscious. It doesn't mean that I don't know what's going on in the world. It just means that I want to be informed and I'm going to have an opinion and I process it differently. And the next thing that I do really focuses on how I start processing that information because for my brain, that information is really unsettling for me and it will actually cause me to get stuck. It will completely shift my focus and I will either, start consuming more information to learn more. So I'll take a deep dive, or depending on what it is, I could be paralyzed for a moment and not be able to process anything at all. And I recognize that about myself. So I'll just start off and say that you really do need to know yourself as part of your gratitude and appreciating the small things in your life that are going well, the blessings that you're counting. Also, acknowledge who you are, acknowledge what you are able to consume and what you're going to do with that information. One of the best questions that I learned in my professional life and as an entrepreneur is when I get flustered because I've got either too much on my plate, there's information that's coming at me, or it's just information that's not very positive, is that I ask myself the question, what matters most in this moment? And there are opportunities to debate. There's opportunities with your friends and family to share opinions, to talk about real topics and how you're going to handle what's happening in the world, what's happening even in your own community. But in those moments where you find yourself becoming overwhelmed and more importantly, discouraged, I want you to stop and ask yourself what matters most in this particular moment. And by doing that, it really helps refocus you on what we call, or what I've heard referred to as our sphere of control. And that brings you back into the present with yourself and your immediate surroundings. I'll give you an example of how I've had to do this real time. I have a mom that I've talked about that I love very much, and I am her daughter, and so she's up in age. She's a beautiful person, and she goes throughout the world fearless and just loving life. And so I worry about her because the world has changed, and there are times when things with her planning or appointments or something doesn't go well. And even though we have a community, my fear and my concern, and let's just call it what it is, worry about her will often get bigger than the situation. And it'll get bigger than the situation sometimes while I'm talking to her. And in my zeal to make sure that she's in the ark of safety, I will lose the bubble or I will become overwhelmed. And what I've learned to do is what matters most in this moment right now with her. One, she's safe. She is safe. She is good. There may be a situation with some of her business that my sisters and I have to take care of. But let's just start with the fact that she's safe and she's well. She's cognizant and she's able to communicate. All good things. Number two, I just mentioned that I have sisters that I can talk to and bounce things off of when it comes to any type of situation or thing going on with my mom. And so, what matters most is that we will be able to work through it. And I also realize that if it's a true emergency, we have systems in place. I actually dedicated a video to that. We have systems in place that allow any one of us at any particular time to reach out to those resources, people, and help us work through whatever we need to work through. And so, what matters most in that moment with my mom is that she's safe, and that we're going to get to the root of whatever the issue is, or we're going to be able to help her navigate and do some of the things that she wants to do. I've had to ask that question many times, and I tell you, it brings me back to what truly matters. And I believe when we talk about how to maintain our sanity through overwhelming and turbulent, confusing, chaotic times, asking yourself what matters most is such a game changer because it forces you in the moment, real time, to answer the question. So I encourage you to ask it. Another thing that I do in different spaces. So if I am at work and there's something that unexpected happens, because life's wherever you are, life doesn't care whether you're in a meeting, whether you're commuting. It doesn't care where you are. It will life on you. And then I have another example in that particular setting. There have been decisions made, or there have been complete 180s of a direction that I'm expecting a situation, a project, or a process to go. And, things outside of my control just completely change my plans. And I'm the type of person that is learning to embrace change. So we're going to get back to that in a moment. But one of the things that I do is I start thinking about outcomes. And some of you may remember Franklin Covey, the end, thinking with the end in mind. That's kind of what I'm doing. I'm not a big Covey follower, but I think we're saying the same thing. What outcome do I want? And I start to work backwards. And sometimes I can do that in the moment, and what it does, it keeps me from spiraling, especially if it's something that I am hard in the paint for, which is my code word for something that I get emotional about. I think about what is it that I want, or what would be the best outcome for this situation. And let me tell you, a lot of times it is not the best outcome just because you want it, but the process of asking yourself the question, what do we want the outcome to be? And you can do this just between you and you. You can talk to yourself and ask yourself the question. Or if you are with coworkers, if you are with your leaders, or even the people that if you supervise someone, you can say, "Hey, what do we want the outcome to be? Let's dispense with the noise. Sometimes there's finger pointing involved, and sometimes there's a lot of information that really won't get you to a solution. But you can just say, what do we want the outcome to be? And just start having that conversation. If you've noticed in the first 10 minutes of this video, my solutions are typically questions. And I don't think that that is strange because I am a very curious person. And my nickname growing up was why, because I always ask the question why. As an adult, I do believe that asking ourselves questions in moments that are tough and tight really allow us to pause, a strategic pause, a mental pause, and just to collect some data real time. I'm talking seconds before our emotions take over. Because here's why I say that: the emotions that take over are typically fear based, or it's worst case based, or it's I'm not in control based. I don't know what's going to happen, and I want a plan. I want a plan of action. I want to be able to thwart danger. I want to be able to protect myself, protect my family, and position me and mine to be unscathed. I mean, legitimately, that is what that fight or flight is this protection mode. And what I am finding is that we are in a state where we are overwhelmed and there's chaos because there's a lack of protection. there's a lack of concern that shows up in so many different places that there's a large level of uncertainty. And I don't know about you, but for me, that can be very unsettling, even when things are going well. And so, working in my sphere of control, learning to have a list of gratitude or be able to have an attitude of gratitude that says, hey, I know things are crazy right now. And you can pick a thing, whether it's societal, whether it's work, family, whatever it is. But there's always an opportunity to bring yourself back to what is positive and what is good and rest in that so that can carry you to the next moment. One of the things, and I say that a lot too, but what I really enjoy about having these conversations with you and having these conversations with my friends and family is that I get the benefit of learning from other people's examples and their experiences as well, which is why I love storytelling, because the examples of how I've had to do this have allowed me to grow and recognize better ways to manage stressful situations, because if I don't, it's not going to be good for us physically, mentally, spiritually, all the things. I'm going to just park on that for a minute, and instead of being solution based with my process, I want to talk about what happens when we don't have one. So let's just say what I've described is something that, you have a better process. That's great. Or you're hesitant to start asking yourself questions. Let's just say you have reservations about everything that I've said. I do want you to develop a strategy. I don't even want to make it real deep. Just develop a mechanism by which you can get to calm and peace relatively quickly. And here's what happens when we don't. Physiologically, that fight or flight will consume you. You will be in a perpetual state of protection mode. And what that does is that the body holds on to that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even going to get too technical with it, but I will tell you that lately there's a lot of things that are on high alert, and it's probably not going to end for a while. That's just because of life. The world is spinning, and there will be moments of peace and positivity, and then there'll be moments of unrest. And when we absorb that, we are playing Russian roulette with our health. We are not able to show up in the moments where we actually have influence, where we actually have the ability to make good decisions that will have a ripple effect of change. We're just not at our best. I don't know if anyone out there is losing sleep. I'm sure somebody is. There have been nights where I'm just like, Lord, what is happening? And I am either in prayer or I am just trying to figure out how I move and meander my way through some of the minefields that life is presenting. Here's what I can tell you is that internalizing a lot of what is happening is probably not healthy. There needs to be a balance. If you are the type of person that is already in an organization or working with someone to improve or make effective changes in your community, there's joy in that. Please keep doing it. There's also benefit of not internalizing it, but actually talking about it. If you have a friend group, we have friends at work, friends at church, family, friends that we've known for years, and neighbors, whatever your community looks like, I would encourage you to identify 2 to 3 people that you can gain agreement on that says, hey, life is lifing and things are getting a little out of hand, and I may need to talk to you. I may need you to talk me off the ledge, or I may need a kind word, or I may need a scripture. Would you mind how having two or three scriptures handy just in case I need them. Like you may be my breaking case of glass friend. Now, mind you, we are all of different faiths. I am definitely going to pray and appeal to the Lord, and He answers my needs. Um, Oftentimes, not immediate, but seriously, I have been witness to him dispatching people to come to my aid right when I asked. Or there will be a scripture that resonates in my heart and that I hold on to, that I can pull out, that reminds me of who God is, that reminds me that God is in control. I did it literally just this morning. Proverbs, not Proverbs, but Psalm 55, 22, where we are to cast all of our cares and cast our burdens on Him. That scripture I am going to put in the description, and I am going to hide that in my heart so that I can remember it and pull it out when things get overwhelming. In addition to that, movement is good. You know, I know for most of us, at least where I live on the East Coast or some parts of the East Coast, we have been going through really cold temperatures. So, you know, it's icy out. So, if you are in an environment where you can get outside and walk safely, do so, or some physical activity or any activity that allows you to exert some level of energy so that you can kind of work out some of your frustrations. You know, you guys are very smart people. So working out and being physical releases endorphins that allow us to change our mood. If nothing else, it'll change the perspective. Bottom line is that internalizing it is not going to help. So I'm going to get to my third thing that I kind of think about when I get overwhelmed and life is crazy is monitoring my surroundings and making sure that I am very clear on who's feeding me and what's feeding me. So I mentioned earlier about social media and that I limit my exposure. So I have a filter. I limit what comes in and I stay informed. I also don't engage in a lot of different conversations. I was on a text thread today with my friends that I call the quad, and we were sounding off about some things that we find very frustrating. We are expressing ourselves and we're getting it off of our chest, and we did it in the text thread, and that was healthy because they brought up good points. We each saw things from a different perspective because we're different ages and we're in different environments and have different experiences, but it was really good to get it out and give air to our thoughts. Have that as a resource for you when life gets overwhelming. Someone that you can call up and say, hey, I'm struggling with something. Do you have a minute? I don't necessarily need you to fix it. I just need you to listen. And I pray that you have those people in your Rolodex that you can call and reach out to them. And if you don't have anyone to talk to, just talk out loud. We lose and oftentimes forget the art of hearing the voice of our concerns. I love the phrase give air to our thoughts because when we keep them in, they just stay bottled up, and you know it comes out in other ways. Stress, definitely some health impacts in that. Also writing too. I don't necessarily journal, but when I do my devotions, I call it when I do my devotionals, but when I have devotional time, it is time in prayer and meditation with the Lord. It's also typically through a scripture. So I have a scripture that I am meditating on, that I am thinking about. I've got reference books, and I'm writing what I'm learning, and I'm writing how to apply it. I'm writing not just the scripture just because it's scripture, but I'm writing, okay, so what does this mean? What does this mean to me right now? There are several things that I do so that I am not internalizing all of the things. Man, it is tough to be neurodivergent sometimes. But I have read books, I have talked to people, I have and am blessed to be able to have several sounding boards at the ready to be able to listen, to be processed, vent, and we kind of just talk through it. And I get to a place, maybe not solving world hunger, but I get to a place where I have expressed myself and I'm able to kind of put a pin in it until the next time. So I'll leave that there for you as well. I talked about kindness and intentionality in another video, and it's not overstated or overrated. I believe that we can deal with the chaos and kerfuffles of life with intentional kindness. And hear me out when I say this. I do believe that we are all gifted with talents that extend outside of our immediate circle, meaning you are there in a capacity maybe as a parent, a friend, a sibling, a child, a really devoted coworker, and all of that are great things. I believe that we are all distributed a variety of gifts that can extend to people that we don't know, extend to a community. And intentional kindness is another way to inject not just positivity, but inject a piece of you that will make the life of someone better into the world. And this video is not specifically about all the different ways that you can do that, but my goodness, if you haven't thought about it, give it a try. We consume a lot of information, and some of us are taking a stance of, I'm just going to focus on me and mine, and I'm just going to block out everything. Whatever you choose to do is what you choose to do. I'm not here to judge it. What I am here to do is offer options that include making the life of someone else better. And that someone else could be someone that you've never met and you don't know. And a couple of examples is a couple of examples that I am doing that real time is that I actually enjoy spending time with youth. I do have a busy schedule. However, I make time to mentor. I make time to run a program that I have in my local community for girls in STEM. I have opportunities in a couple of different organizations, to include my church organization, to give back, to donate provisions, to actually show up and feed folks that are in the margin, that are disadvantaged, to donate food, physical food, and take it to families who are still, quite frankly, recovering from either layoffs or um, just are on hard times. We call I don't want to say we call. Sometimes those folks are disenfranchised. They're just down. Some people are just not they're having a hard time with life. I don't want to use the term life is lifing because that's a very casual colloquialism that we use, not to use a big word, but it is what it is. I'm talking about folks that are just down. And that not just brings me joy, but it is an opportunity for me to affect change in someone else's life in a positive way when there are a lot of negative things happening. If you are not connected with a local church or an organization or a nonprofit that is doing that work, I encourage you to find one in your local community. We have resources that are beyond money and beyond food. I bet that someone on the other sound of my voice is a good listener. I bet someone on the other sound of my voice has the capacity to maybe sit with an older person or someone that is aging and just be company, to spend a few hours a week. I bet you someone on the other side of my voice is just really good at babysitting and maybe taking, a trusted agent, giving a parent a break. I mean, I'm thinking just real simple, I'll call it simple ways to give parts of ourselves to our communities, volunteering, excuse me, in in places that feed our homeless, preparing food. I'm sure there's somebody on the other side of my voice that can burn, that can actually cook, and may have additional resources to prepare food or a plate for someone. There's so much. There's so much that we can do to change the landscape of the local community and the world that we live in. And I believe it's important to talk about. Everything that I have mentioned, they're not all include, there's so many more ideas, which is why I'm talking about it, because I want to get more input from you. I would love to hear from you what you do. Do you volunteer at a hospital? Do you volunteer reading to your children's class? Like, there's so many things that we can do that give a part of us to our community, to show gratitude, intentional kindness, surrounding ourselves with people who understand the soft spots about our personalities and our nature, especially when we're overwhelmed. There's opportunity to be the thing that you need for somebody else. So if you know that things are happening and you're triggered by something you see on the news or on social media, what do you do to to bring yourself to center, to process, to grieve, even if that's something that strikes you, or if that's the response that you have? What is it that you do, and how has it helped you? And share that with someone else. I believe that this journey that I'm on in life is um, culminating into selfless acts of love. And not that I didn't think that I had the capacity for it. What I'm learning is that I have the capacity for so much more. I believe at one point in time, I aspired to either be a professor or to be a leader in a company, making good decisions for the community, not just for profit, but changing the lives of people. And what I have come to understand in this very moment is that I'm doing that right now. I'm doing that with my resources. I'm doing that with my time, my prayers. I'm showing up for people. And I am sure that God is going to reveal to me ways that I can do more of that. So that's why I'm recording this video, because of how I process things. And I just want to provide and share steps on how we regain our humanity, we regain our sanity, and we're able to affect positive change with exactly who we are, with exactly what God has given us, so that we can make a difference where we are. I would love to hear in the comments what your thoughts are, what you're doing, so that we can share that broadly, and then I can learn. I always say that I want to learn from you, and I'm pretty sure that there's positive movement that intentional acts of kindness can promote. And I say, let's get started. Thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow night. All right, have a good one. Bye.